Blood report, all rise.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
This is a case about a person who thinks the rules don't apply to him. This is a case about a person who thinks they don't have to be in trouble if they don't want to, if it's inconvenient. This is a case about a person who thinks they should be treated separately and specially under the law. That person is sitting right there, King Wilson. He's riding down the road in Andrews. It's dark, it's night. And he's speeding. Everybody's sped before. I'm a solicitor. I'll say it right now on the record. I'm guilty of speeding. Probably on the way this morning to the courthouse. And what does he see behind him? He sees blue lights. That's a bummer. It's happened to everybody. Everybody's been pulled over. And he has before him a choice. He can pull over, get that little blue piece of paper, go over there to Short Street, pay the fine, and learn a lesson. Or he can endanger himself, he can endanger the officer, and he can endanger the entire community of Andrews by going on a white-knuckle, high-speed chase. This trial is going to be about the choice that he makes. Your Honor, the statement called Elijah Method.
Some swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Consider the witness on this.
Good morning. Can you give us your name for the record?
Trooper Elijah Ashley Method, Lance Corporal with South Carolina Department of Public Safety.
How long have you worked at the Department of Public Safety?
I was hired in January of 2013. This is my 9th year.
Were you involved in this case that we're here about today?
I was.
What date did it first come to your attention?
It occurred on June 21st, 2021 in Williamsburg County.
That's in Williamsburg. How did it come to your attention?
That night I was on patrol assigned to Williamsburg County. I was traveling Triad Road heading towards Seaboard when I observed a vehicle pass by that intersection where it looked to me to be a high rate of speed. That particular section is, I believe, a 35-mile-an-hour zone. It took me a couple seconds to get out onto Seaboard and catch up to the driver. But once I was behind him, I was able to estimate his speed at around 70 miles an hour. And then after establishing a tracking history and estimating that speed, confirmed that speed with my radar. My radar actually locked in a speed of 72 miles an hour. And it was shortly after that I initiated a traffic stop. I turned on my blue lights and radioed into my dispatch of the location where I was at.
So you're in Williamsburg County. You saw a vehicle speeding, clock for speeding. You mentioned you cut on your blue lights. Tell us a little bit about your patrol vehicle.
At that time, I was assigned a 2021 Ford Explorer. It's an unmarked SUV that was gray in color. It has lights that are built into the front, rear, and side windshields. It does not have a light bar on top of it. Being a newer vehicle, it's got the LED headlights on the front. But once I initiated the traffic stop, the blue lights illuminate in all 360 degrees around the vehicle.
So it's an unmarked vehicle. When you cut, it has blue lights and sirens that activate.
It does.
So tell me, you cut your blue lights and sirens on, what happened next?
Called out the traffic stop. The subject pulled over to the right side of the road. Proceeded to walk towards the vehicle. As I got out, I could see that his car was shaking a little bit, which told me that he was most likely moving around in the vehicle, doing what, I don't know, but in prior history and what we've been trained as normally catches our attention. 9 times out of 10, maybe trying to hide something under a seat or get rid of something. Especially on night shift, a lot of times it may be a beer they're trying to put in the back seat or tuck under another seat to conceal. So that caught my attention. Immediately, you can see my flashlight starts hitting the windows to see what I can see inside the vehicle. You can also see the windows are tinted, so it's pretty hard to see in the vehicle. But I can see he's kind of looking back at me, trying to see me approach.
And I'm sitting there, who's the he? The subject?
The driver, who's later identified as Mr. Wilson.
Is Mr. Wilson in the courtroom?
He is. He's the defendant.
Thank you. Please continue.
As I approach, I stay at the rear door initially. Like I said, I don't know what he's reaching for, what he's doing. I'm not going to put myself immediately in a line where I could be shot at or something to that effect. So he cracks the window and tries to put his license through the window. I asked him several times, I believe, gosh, it was 6 or 7 times, I think, to lower that window so I can clearly identify him. And like 9 years on the road, I've had a lot of things happen. I've had people hand me fake IDs. If I can't clearly see him, I don't know that what he's handing me is actually who I'm talking to. So after a few minutes of him not lowering the window and me asking, I believe I had made the point of telling him that, hey, I'm not being mean, I'm not being aggressive, I just need to talk to you face to face like a human. And he still does not want to roll down the window. So at that point, I call to see if an additional unit can come back me up. And once that call is made, I believe he understood that I was asking for backup. You see the window roll up and he hits the gas and takes off. At that point, I radio dispatch again to advise that he's fleeing from me. I run back to my vehicle and I start pursuing him down Seaboard Road heading towards Andrews.
And I'm stuck there. So during this interaction,
I had a full uniform on, my summer uniform, which is short sleeves. Had my campaign hat on, had the badge, nameplate.
so it would have been a pretty hard mistake to do anything with a law enforcement officer. And the vehicle you had blue lights and siren on.
Correct.
And that light and siren stayed on as you started this chase.
Correct.
Tell us about the chase.
Once he took off, I radioed to dispatch.
Okay, let me say, before we continue. During this interaction on the roadway, we were asking you to go to the down. At any time, did you threaten Mr. Wilson?
No, did not.
Did you yell at him?
Did not.
Did you scream at him?
Did not.
Point your gun at him?
Did not.
In fact, with your hands invisible to him if he was looking.
Correct.
And you had flashlights, so it wasn't that. All right, now please.
So we're proceeding down Seaboard Road. We go a short distance. I can't remember which side road it was, but he ended up making a left-hand turn, headed back towards 521. I recall before the stop, and with our CAD, we can kind of see where all our guys are at on the map. I recall that my corporal was headed back towards Andrews, so he wasn't too far away. And once he was aware of what's going on, he, per policy, asked what the initial violation was. I advised him on the radio it was for speeding, and advised the conditions on the road, that the traffic at that time was clear and the weather was clear. Once we got to 521, we made a right and headed towards Andrews. We went a short distance and passed my corporal. It took him a couple moments to catch up to us. I think at that time we were doing about 100 miles an hour.
And can you tell us a little bit about this? Tell us about the speeds during what you just described.
Initially, when he got on the Seaboard, I think he got up to the mid-80s, and then it was 50s and 60s on the side road, which was a pretty rough road. I think in the video you see dirt flying up and whatnot. But on 521, that was pretty open, and that's where he really opened up. I think we got to about 103. I think was our top speed on 521, which is what took my corporal was going the opposite direction. So if you can imagine us passing him at 103 miles an hour, the time it takes him to turn around, it took him a few minutes to catch up to us. But per policy, since I am in his unmarked vehicle, once he does join the pursuit in a marked vehicle and we have an opportunity to, you'll see in the video we switch positions. So I moved to a secondary position and he takes over as the primary. Chase then pursues through the city of Andrews, down to South Morgan. We get on the 521 bypass and head back towards Georgetown.
I want to stop there. So you went through the residential part of this chase, went through the residential part of the city of Andrews.
Correct. Yes. Once we get on the bypass, we're able to coordinate with Georgetown County deputies on 521. They were set up with tire deflation devices, or most commonly known as bike strips. And one of the deputies was able to deploy those strips, striking the two driver's side tires of the vehicle, so the front driver and the rear driver's side of the vehicle. The point of those, which is also a common misconception, but the point of those is to safely deflate those tires. The tires don't instantly shred and the car doesn't spin out. Their design is a hollow spike that allows the air to safely and in a controlled manner deflate out of those tires. And as such, he was able to come to a controlled stop. Once he does stop, my corporal and I would both approach the vehicle. I did a passenger side, he went to the driver's side, and we were able to get him detained out of the vehicle.
And the person detained, of course, is Mr. Wilson.
Correct.
The person identified earlier. This chase has started in Williamsburg County.
It did.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about your uniform and kid. You put the body cam that evening?
I was.
All right. And so how does that work? Tell the jury how you body cam.
Our cars are equipped with an Axon. Axon is the manufacturer of the camera system. My body cam and in-car are both triggered as soon as the blue lights come on. So one thing I do like about my body cam, and you'll see in the video, is my radar screen is in direct view of the body cam. And a lot of times when I'm making speed cases, I'll go ahead and activate that body cam so I can capture what my radar sees prior to making the stop.
Did that happen in this case?
It did. So, like I said, my body cam or my radar is right in the front center dash, and it's right front and center of the screen. So activated my body cam, again, locked in the speed of 72, initiated the traffic stop. As soon as the blue lights kick on, my in-car starts recording or starts logging that evidence. Now, in addition to that, if he does play the full video, that in-car camera is recording continually. When that camera is on, it is continually recording. So when the blue lights come on, it'll flag the first 30 seconds of video and attach that to that incident. So the first 30 seconds is video only. Once the blue lights come on, then you'll get the audio as well.
All right, I'm going to show you what is been pre-marked. Take a look at this for a minute.
This is a copy of my body cam footage.
Are you familiar with the contents of this pit?
I am.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of what you just described, the roadside interaction with Mr. Wilson?
It is.
All right. It's this time, Your Honor, states Exhibit 1 into evidence and published to the jury.
Evening. Can you go ahead and roll the window down for me? Can you go ahead and roll the window down for me? Yes, sir. Yeah, that's fine. You can roll it down. Roll it down for me. Roll it down. I can't hear you, sir. Roll it down further, please. Sir, I need you to roll it down further. Sir, I need you to roll it down further for me. I need you to roll down the window for me, please. You really want to go this way? Then do me a favor, roll the window down like a proper. Roll it all the way down. Roll it all the way down. Sir, roll the window all the way down. Roll it all the way down. I'm asking you nicely. Roll it all the way down. You're not complying with my instructions. roll the window down all the way so I can have an adult conversation with you and you not act like a child. This is childish. Yes, this is childish. Okay? Then step out here for me. Step out here. I can ask you to step out of the vehicle. That's via state law. Step out of the vehicle. Step out of the vehicle. Well, I'd ask nicely, step out of the vehicle. Okay? You're not complying with me. Step out of the vehicle. I'm not going to talk to someone through a crack. Okay? You're a grown man. Act like it. Step out here and talk to me. 167,
and Trooper Bradley don't stop there. That was the spike strips that you saw?
Correct, yes.
And all right, gentlemen, y'all arrested Mr. Wilson at that point.
We did.
I've got a few follow-up questions about the video that you watched. He goes through an intersection, and there's another cop car on his right. Isn't that correct?
On 521?
That's right.
Correct, that'd be my corporal.
And there's a high school directly behind that.
There's a few, okay, here, that was at Andrews, he passed a couple of them.
Okay.
On County Line, yes, where the Andrews City Cop is on his right, there's a school directly behind him there.
That Andrew City cop, that wasn't an unmarked car.
Correct.
And it had its blue lights inside.
Correct. There are actually two of them there, it was a car and one right behind them, both the City of Andrews.
And the chase continued right past that,
Correct.
and past that well-lit high school that was right there where it could stop.
It did.
And went it through the city of Andrews.
It did.
High speeds,
Oh, yes.
and high speeds on the interstate.
It did.
Got a few more questions about the camera system in the car. Does it record the cockpit or the driver's area of the vehicle as well sometimes?
The cabin camera is for prisoner transport, so it's aimed at the front passenger seat. We're one of the few agencies in the nation that still transport our prisoners in the front passenger seat.
And was that activated during your interaction and arrest of Mr. Wilson?
Correct. It's set up where if my blue lights are on and I buckle the seatbelt in, it will automatically activate.
Permission to approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to approach you with what's been pre-marked for identification purposes in the state's exhibit 3.
That would be my transport video, that's rear facing camera.
And that's what we just got done talking about.
Correct.
And this disc contains a fair and accurate representation of you and Mr. Wilson interacting inside the vehicle.
It does.
Oh, at this time, the state seeks to move State's Exhibit 3 into evidence. No objection, Your Honor.
3 is admitted.
It was cracked.
It's cracked. And during that conversation you had with Mr. Wilson, you read his Miranda rights,
I did.
and he admitted to having an open container of the alcohol in the car.
He did.
Could that have possibly been the reason you didn't want to really window down for you?
It's a possibility. Not typical, but it's a possibility.
Beg the court's indulgence. That's Mr. Wilson right there.
It did.
The chase started in Williamsburg County.
It did.
those were the highways of South Carolina that all this happening on.
Correct.
You had a uniform on, reasonably been assumed to be a law enforcement officer.
Correct.
The vehicle was put the blue light and siren
And cameras.
and chased this defendant in the vehicle and didn't stop,
Correct.
as well as you and several other officers in March patrol vehicles with their sirens on.
Yep.
I don't have a question.
Mr. Reagan?
Just a few quick questions. Approximately what time did this happen?
I believe the initial traffic stop was at 23:03, so 11:03 p.m. at
So it
night.
was clearly dark outside,
Correct, it was night.
and only you and Mr. Wilson were present at the initial traffic stop.
Correct.
You were driving an unmarked car, I believe.
Correct.
The marked car, a marked car joined the chase somewhere along the way, and there were, as you just mentioned, there was another vehicle that was seen along the way with a marked car.
Correct.
Initially, you stopped in an unmarked car. You are aware that, just want to make sure you were aware that Mr. Wilson was trying to hand you the identification and other information through that opening in the window, which I think was, maybe you said somewhere was approximately 2 inches.
Correct. He was attempting to hand me his ID, and only his ID.
Did he take any action at the initial stop that you felt was physically threatening to you? Did he just take any?
Suspect, yes. Threatening, I don't think it raised to that level. Like I said, you could see the vehicle was shaking when we first stopped to indicate to me that he was moving around in the
So he
vehicle.
made no threats toward you?
Yeah, nor I.
You weren't in fear for your life at any time?
At that time, no.
And as we heard on one of the videos there, you were able to see him well enough to identify approximately his height and weight.
Correct.
And so the reason for rolling down the window, it was my understanding earlier, was so that you would be able to see him and identify him. And you had indicated that in the past you've seen people give you a wrong ID or something.
Correct. Fully identify him, have a face-to-face conversation.
But if you were able to go ahead and see him well enough to kind of know how big he is.
You can see in the video there, the windows were tinted. I could see him through tinted glass, but it's still nice to be able to talk face to face and clearly identify who I'm talking to.
Is the picture ID useful if you can't see the person handing it to you?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
State rest.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to dismiss you back to the jury room for a few minutes while we take up some issues of law. We won't keep you long. Please don't worry.
Footage of this incident that took place in Williamsburg County. As my co-counsel said this morning when we got started, my name is Ella Austin. I am also an assistant solicitor here in Williamsburg County. We were here this week for a failure to stop for a blue light charge regarding the defendant, Mr. Rakeem Wilson. This simply was a reckless disregard for the safety of himself, the community, the officers involved, as well as the innocent people in their homes at night. This was a simple interaction, a traffic violation that escalated to an unnecessarily volatile situation, or, as the defendant himself worded it, a spooky situation. On June 21st, 2021, we had a defendant who admits to having an open container in his car fail to comply with easy, laid out plain English instructions. Roll down the tinted windows of your vehicle. Tinted windows on a vehicle in the dead of night, in the dark, in a wooded area of our county. Nothing outrageous, just simply roll down the window so that the officer can identify you. Roll down the window so we can have an adult conversation. He wasn't dragged out of the car. Officer Miller didn't raise his voice. No weapons were drawn. As you saw from the body cam footage, both hands were visible of the officer. Nothing for Mr. Wilson to fear that time. But Mr. Wilson made the choice to careen through a ditch and speed off down the road. He made the choice to go and excel 70, 80, 90, and 100 miles per hour in a residential neighborhood past 11 o'clock. Family sleeping, children in their beds. That wasn't a concern to Mr. Wilson. He called his interaction with the officer spooky. But I submit to the court, it's spooky for families to be sleeping, to hear tires screeching, engines roaring, and police sirens at this odd time of night in this quiet area. Mr. Wilson made the argument that he just wanted to get to a safe area to interact with the officer. I submit to you that that argument is null and void. On the in-car video, we see Mr. Wilson speeds past multiple areas within the county, within the city limits of Andrews where he could have stopped. You seen the video, he passed by one church. The house of the Lord, a refuge house. Light poles are up. I'm pretty sure most places have security cameras now. He doesn't stop. Passed by church number 2, right hand side of the road. Same deal. Wide open space. Cars coming by. Light poles are up. He doesn't stop. He made the argument that he felt unsafe because it was an unmarked car. The same unmarked car that initiated blue lights. The same unmarked car that initiated the sirens. Even if that was the case, he sped past 2 marked cars who had their blue lights flashing and their sirens activated. And that was also at the location of Andrews High School, another well-lit, higher institution of education that he failed to stop at. He felt unsafe to stop at all of these well-lit areas. He then made the choice to turn onto Morgan Street in Andrews. Multiple stores, multiple hotels, multiple places of businesses. He just sped past. Disregarded stop signs, veered off the road at one point in time just to evade officers. But somehow he was just looking for a safe place to stop. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at the initial stop, Officer Miller was fully uniformed, had his badge showing, had his hat on, and identified himself as an officer of the law. Mr. Wilson made the choice not to even respect that enough to roll down his window seen the body cam, he even struggled himself to try to squeeze an ID through a crack instead of owning up to the decision that he made that night. And that's exactly what's going on here. Mr. Wilson made the unilateral and arrogant decision that he is above the law. He doesn't need to answer to anybody. He just wants to storm off, endanger the lives of many, endanger the lives of officers, endanger the lives of people on the road that night without any consequences. As we stated earlier, you're going to hear the law read by Judge Curtis. So anything we say about the law differs from what we say and she says, listen to her. But basically, whenever there is an officer who initiates their blue lights or the silence, we have an obligation to stop. Mr. Wilson chose to ignore that. So we today just ask that you hold Mr. Wilson accountable for his actions. Judge the credibility of the officer involved. Judge the credibility of the evidence you view with your own eyes. And we just ask that you return a verdict of guilty. I thank you again for your time. I thank you again for being patient with us. I thank you for being attentive and paying attention. There is nothing more noble than jury duty, and I'm glad that you are here to participate in serving justice this afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Alston. Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Alston. My final review. Thank you very much for coming in and paying attention. I know you were watching everything that's going on, and we all appreciate that very much. Thank you. Are you afraid of the dark? In the 1990s, there was a television show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? Young people, teenagers primarily, according to the way the story was told, we would go into a kind of a dark wooded area most times, and each night they got together, which was each episode of the television show once a week. They would tell a scary story, a spooky story. The intent was to scare each other. That's what they would do. That was something that my family and I watched. My wife and I and 4 children. That was one of our weekly engagements. We never missed it because we enjoyed that type of show. There are times when spooky stories are not very good. Today, we heard a spooky story, scary story. We got a young man who was driving. He was stopped by a police officer. It was dark, very dark, what I would call hard dark. Some people would say that. There were only 2 people present. The highway patrol officer and Mr. Wilson. It was dark, and he was scared. He did attempt to comply, as you heard on the video and saw. He opened his window a little bit and tried to hand out the ID. Now you heard also that the officer said that he was able to identify Mr. Wilson's height and weight, and he could see him relatively well even through the tinted glass. So again, what we have here is, I think, a spooky story, a scary story. And I wonder how many of us are afraid of the dark. It can be a very scary place. The police officer was in an unmarked car originally, and it was in a spot where, as you saw in the video, it was very dark when the first stop took place. Mr. Wilson tried to comply. He could not quite finish the compliance. The officer insisted on opening the window. Mr. Wilson did not do that. And at some point, he made probably an ill-informed decision to drive away. Now, once he started driving, the adrenaline starts pumping. And if you've ever been excited about anything, then we all understand how that works. It's hard to stop. Mr. Wilson got started driving, and even though he passed places, no doubt, that he could have stopped, he didn't. But I think that's understandable because he was in an excited state. He was excited. He was trying to get away from something that he was afraid of. And to get to the next spot where he's safe, it's hard to slow down and think through that and make sure that you're getting into the right spot and that once you get there, you will be safe. Now, the state has the burden of proving every element of this crime. And Judge Curtis will explain the elements to you in your instructions. They have the burden of proving all of this beyond a reasonable doubt. We do not believe they have done that. However, one of the things that I want you to consider in this case is the overall circumstances of the case. Judge Curtis will give you an instruction on, I believe she will give you an instruction about criminal intent. And in order to commit a crime, you not only have to do something, you have to have the criminal intent that goes with it. She will explain that to you. I believe that Mr. Wilson, and what happened in this incident, did not have the intent to avoid getting a ticket. He didn't have the intent to not comply. He was just scared. That's all there is to it. He was scared. He was in a dark spot. Spooky. It became very spooky for him. As he said, you saw him say that in the video. You saw him explain that he had complied while he was in the vehicle with the highway patrol officer. He drove away, not with the intent of avoiding anything, but to try to get to a safer place. And there were, as we said, as has been said, he passed by marked vehicles too. Yet the adrenaline was still flowing. Now when the final stop came, Mr. Wilson did not resist. In fact, he didn't threaten anybody at any time along the way. He submitted to the arrest, and he was taken into custody. I want to thank you again for your attention. I know you've been watching everything. I've seen you watch all the evidence that was presented and listen to it. Thank you. Please listen to Judge Curtis' instructions and review the evidence carefully. Think about what happened. Take into account the overall world that we live in and the totality of the circumstances in this particular case. And I ask you to return a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard all the testimony and the evidence in the case. It's now my duty to instruct you on the law that applies. The indictment in this case charges the defendant failure to stop for a blue light. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the bailiff has handed me a verdict form that states, as to the charge of failure to stop for a blue light, we the jury unanimously find the defendant guilty. So let me ask, ladies and gentlemen, is this your verdict? Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
From the defendant?
Could we poll the jury, Your Honor?
Thank you, Your Honor. We just want to point out to the court that Mr. Wilson has 3 offenses on his rap sheet: a distribution of cocaine in 2012, possession of crack cocaine in 2014, and in 2017, possession of marijuana. We'd also like to point out to the court that we'd ask that for whatever sentence you give today, you violate and revoke the murder bond that he is currently out on.
And I'm sorry, give me the dates. You said 2014 was distribution of crack cocaine, was it distribution of cocaine in what year?
The distribution of cocaine was 12, the possession of crack cocaine is 14, and the possession of marijuana is 17.
17. And then remind me, I set his bond, or did I set the bond on failure to stop for a blue light?
We made a motion to revoke his bond because he was charged with failure to stop for a blue light when he was out on bond for murder and trafficking of cocaine out of Georgetown. I have been appointed special prosecutor on that Georgetown case, as well as I'm prosecuting the murder case. Mr. Wilson has done nothing but commit crime since he got out on bond for murder. As soon as I get back from maternity leave, I'm either trying the murder or the trafficking cocaine. I just needed something. This case was to deal with him continually breaking the law while he was out on bond.
Okay, will you remind me of the dates of these various arrests?
Yes, ma'am. The murder case happened on 5/18/2019.
And that's the one out of Williamsburg?
Yes, ma'am. That happened in Williamsburg at the bar Hewell Enterprises that we heard about on Monday. He started murder, possession of a weapon, assault and battery in the first degree, 2 counts. And then he has several Georgetown charges as well. He has trafficking in heroin, with marijuana, and unlawful carrying of a pistol. And those occurred on December the 6th of 2020.
December the 6th of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you said there's a Georgetown.
That's the date of the Georgetown case, December the 6th, 2020. The Williamsburg case is 5/18/2019, the murder.
So there's not a Georgetown murder
No, ma'am.
charge.
It's just drugs.
The Williamsburg, the Georgetown drug offenses, and then this failure to stop for blue light was June 22nd, 2021.
That's right.
And so bonds were set on,
On all of those charges, the bond he's currently out on is a $60,000 surety bond with GPS monitor. And required him to go to drug dealer.
okay, Mr. Ricky?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Wilson, as I showed you yesterday, yes. Mr. Wilson has been accepted into the Teen Challenge Drug Rehab. If I can show that to you. Here's that. Letter from assistant. If I may approach it. And this is a letter from the assistant. I would like to speak to you Mr. Wilson has been accepted into the Teen Challenge. He would be able to begin participating in that on Monday.
Okay. Give me just a second to read the note, and then I'm about to hear from Ms. Mother.
Thank you.
Did you say Dean?
Teen.
It's the adult and teen challenge, because Mr. Wilson, I see, is 31.
Thank you.
And would you want his mother to speak now, Your Honor?
Yes, sir. And then I think Mr. Wilson wants to speak as well.
Did she give you your name?
Tell
Have
me
you
your full
seen
name,
it?
ma'am.
Ma'am,
Tell me your full name, please.
Denise Anita Wilson.
Okay, thank you,
I'm
Ms. Wilson.
Raheem's mother. I spoke with you before.
Okay.
Well,
She has it.
well, my daughter couldn't be here, she had to work. Well, I wasn't with him during this traffic, but I saw the film. And I know my son. I saw a scared young man.
Well, I mean, ma'am, with all due respect, the jury has spoken on that.
Right, I understand, but I just want to say, I'm just asking for leniency. I know he was found guilty, but I'm just saying, the jury has spoken, but I'm just saying, can I say something? I just said he was afraid for his safety, I don't know. That's the way it looked to me. That's the way his face looked, the expression on his face. I probably would have done the same thing in the dark street. I'm just saying,
Ma'am, I think you probably want to tell me it's not anything related to the facts of this case, because I don't think that's really what you want to tell me.
Well, I'm just
I watched the
saying,
video where
I feel
for
the
20 minutes he kept going.
okay.
So I think
But
we'll be on
I'm
that
asking
now.
for leniency for him because he do help me. My leg is real bad, I'm disabled. And he helps me and I help him. He takes care of his children. You know, he's a good father. And he has small children, 7, 4, and 13. And they really looks up to him. And I'm just asking for, he needs support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. And Mr. Wilson, you don't have to say anything, but I'm glad to hear from you if there's something you want to tell me.
I can stand up?
Sure. And if you'll pull your mask down for me, please.
Well, what I would like to say is, last time I was in front of you, you gave me some instructions to try to seek some help, get into a program. I just like to state that I did do that. I've had to send my kids away because they was currently living with me. Had to pay money to get enrolled in this, had to get blood work and all kind of stuff, and I'm actually accepted in. Unfortunately, I lost today, but whether I would have won or lost today, was going to have to go to this program on Monday at 1 o'clock. Either way it went, and try to get my life or get some help with the problems that I have at this particular moment. And I just like to ask for leniency and just state that I was really scared that night. That's the only reason why I drove off, and I probably didn't make a smart decision at that point, but I just want to say I apologize.
Was there a magistrate court charge along with this one?
There were several, Your Honor, those are being dismissed as far as the disposition goes.
Was there a DUI, or was it just a reckless driving?
It was, I believe, speeding, reckless driving, and an open container of alcohol.
Mr. Wilson spend any time in jail?
Your Honor, on this charge, he bonded out the very next day, for 1 day.
Okay, I am taking into consideration all the facts and circumstances of this particular case. I'm taking into consideration the prior record. The sentence of the court is 6 months. I am giving Mr. Wilson credit for the 1 day that he has already served. I appreciate that you have now arranged to go to drug rehab. My recollection is it's been some time ago since I made that suggestion to you. And Mr. Wilson, I don't know if you're sincere or not. It just, if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me what they were getting ready to do on Monday morning that they had not done yet. And that's my decision, sir. So good luck to you.
Thank you, Ma'am.
News TY, I'm Tony Conyers. Is there any newsworthy events in Williamsburg County? We will get them to you as soon as possible. If not, you can follow us on Christian News TY Facebook, you can follow us on YouTube, and you can follow us on our website.